Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Get Hired Summit. We are fired up to be with you today and cannot wait to share the lineup with you on this awesome event. We have so many people coming in and joining. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for being a part of this community. For our first session, I want to give her as much time as possible because all of her content is literally next level. She is incredible. And I want her to be able to share that goodness with you. I see everyone coming in. Hey, Beth. Hey, Regina. If you haven't yet, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us where you're tuning in from. Tell us what your background is. And then let's get the questions starting to go. As far as an introduction goes, I want to introduce you to Heather Austin. Heather is a university professor turned entrepreneur. Over the last 15 years, she's taught thousands of clients and students how to build their personal brands so they can land their dream job and grow in a field they love. She's had the privilege of working with professionals all across the globe and at all levels of their career, land positions at companies like Amazon, Thomson Reuters, the New York Times, Stanford University. And her number one goal is to help you find a career that brings you true happiness and fulfillment. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Heather Austin.
Hey, thanks, Luke. What a great introduction. I'm so excited about this event today. And especially when you guys mentioned that, hey, we are holding a free event for job seekers, a virtual event where they can connect with recruiters, ask career and job experts questions, and learn from expert speakers. I was like, I am in. So I'm so excited to jam with you guys today. I have some special content in store with you. You're going to want to get ready to take notes because what I'm going to share with you is so actionable and it's so doable, especially for today, for this summit, and as a job seeker. So you are going to be able to really put into place the things that I'm teaching you today during this summit. So I have slides to share with you. If any of you know me from YouTube or you've been on any of my live streams before, I always open up with, I'm a very visual learner. So when I learn something, I have to see pictures and graphics and text. So that's kind of how I teach. So I'm going to share some slides with you guys today. If at any time you have any questions about any of the stuff that we cover, make sure you get questions into the chat. Also, while you're joining us and coming in today, let us know where you're joining us from. We are so happy to have you guys here. And I'm so excited to share this with you. So I'm going to just take a second to share my screen and make sure, I would say if we were over on YouTube, give this video a thumbs up, but there's no thumbs up here and that's okay. But make sure if you can't see slides or anything like that, make sure you let me know in the chat. I can kind of see you guys coming in and rolling in. And by the way, if you're from my audience, say hello, because I like to ask you guys a lot of questions during these teaching sessions that I do. So keep your eyes open and your ears open, and we're going to dive right in. So today we are talking about the 5 ways to master the Get Hired Summit. But let me tell you something. This presentation does not just apply to today. It applies to your entire job search, okay? So I'm starting off with a question for you. So type into the chat, what's one thing you struggle with the most in your job search? So one thing that you struggle with the most in your job search, make sure you type that in. And while you guys are typing that in, let me share a little bit about myself. Luke did a fantastic job telling us more about me. I'm a career strategy expert. My name is Heather Austin. I'm the founder of ProfessorAustin.com. So I am a university professor and I have been teaching on the university level for over 15 years, but I've recently turned to an entrepreneur. And I'll tell you more about my story in a second. But my number one goal is to help you find your dream job so you can grow in a career or in a field you love. So most of you, if you've ever met me, you know me from YouTube. So a couple of years ago, I started a YouTube channel teaching all things career related. In fact, here are a couple of my more popular videos where we talk about interview questions, we talk about resumes, and we talk about LinkedIn. So if you go to YouTube and you search any of those topics, you're going to see a number of my videos pop up. In fact, this month, our channel received 9.5 million views, not this month, but up to this month, we've received that many views on the channel. We have been able to help hundreds of thousands of job seekers land work in their dream job field. So I want to share a couple stories with you guys in case you're feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, you're not sure where to go with your job search. By the way, you'll learn today there's a lot of hiring happening. So this is fantastic news, especially as the economies open up across the world. There's a lot more hiring taking place. So I want to share a couple success stories with you. These are just from people in my community that are landing jobs right now. And this is to give you guys hope and encouragement that you can do it too. So I want you to meet Michelle. She says, I accepted a job offer today. My new job is 2 minutes from my house. Terry says, I got a job offer yesterday. It's the exact one I wanted. And she goes on to say, good pay, full benefits, doing something I love, and only 5 minutes from my house. Whitney says, I got an amazing job offer. Thank you so much for all of your help. Sydney, I got a job. And Ross, job offer came in on Thursday. So you guys, we get these messages every single day from our community. People are really landing jobs, and they're landing jobs that they love and getting paid more than they thought that they would get paid. So I have more stories to share with you as we go through this presentation today. So let's see where you guys, I want to jump into the chat and see what you guys mentioned about your greatest struggle. So Dawn, hello, so happy you're here. Dawn says, getting interviews, connections, feeling underqualified to the perfect job description. This is a big one, Dawn. Thanks for sharing that. Let's see. Kimbrel, I think is how you say your name, says, I'm proud of my 30 years of experience. However, it dates me. How do I balance that? And we'll jump into questions in just a second. Such a good question. Thanks for mentioning that. Natalie says, getting interviews. Let's see. We have never hearing anything after applying and being ghosted by recruiters. Oh, these are the common struggles that I hear from job seekers all the time. So I'm going to arm you guys with some things that you can do today to conquer some of this. And again, get questions in because we'll be taking those toward the end of today's presentation. So I have another question for you. Okay. I told you I ask you guys a lot of questions. Type yes in the chat if you want to see success like these job seekers. So type yes in the chat if you want to see success like these folks that I just shared their stories with you. Now, let me share my background story really quickly so that you understand where I'm coming from and kind of what happened to me in this whole job search journey. So a few years ago, I was in a position that I really enjoyed. It was one that I thought I was going to be in forever. I was actually teaching university students how to build their personal brands so that they could land their dream job. So resume writing, interview strategies, LinkedIn, networking, all that good stuff. In fact, here is a picture of me and my coworkers. We held an 80s party on our campus to celebrate our students and to celebrate the awesomeness of our campus. And here is a picture of me sitting in front of the mission statement of the school that I actually helped write. But there were some sharky waters up ahead, and that's why I put this picture in. There were layoffs happening all over. My managers and my bosses were resigning. The classes that I were teaching for, the student sizes were shrinking. Programs on campus were actually being discontinued. I knew it was time to move on. The only problem is that I hadn't done my own career development in a really long time. I hadn't written my own resume. I hadn't been on interviews for a really long time. I was super afraid to put myself out there. I was afraid of what others would think. I was frustrated. I was overwhelmed. And to make things worse, and not that this is a bad thing, but I have a family with 4 kids and to support. And if you have like a larger family, you know that you can't just get by anymore on one person's income. So while all this was happening at this same time that I was realizing my job's in jeopardy and I have a family to support, by the way, this is us at the hospital with our 4th child. You can see he's like kind of wrapped up in a little ball there. You can hardly see him with our other kids. And this is at that moment I realized, okay, we've got to do something about it. So what happened is I went to work putting into all the things that I'd been teaching my students, all the resume writing strategies, interview strategies, all that good stuff. And amazing things started to happen. So within weeks, I actually landed job offers for jobs that I wasn't even qualified for. And I kind of took hold of what my situation was. The interesting thing about this is I tapped into my professional network. I gained a greater sense of my career fulfillment, and I learned that I can work through complicated life-changing events. And that is not the best part. I'm not the only one that's benefited from these ideas and these solutions that I'm going to teach you here today. I actually started teaching other professionals how to do the same thing. So I want you guys to meet David. So I do a resume review show, a free resume review show on my channel every 6 weeks or so. And David sent his resume to me. It was an anonymous resume. He's allowed me to share his story with you guys here today. David sent his resume to me and said, can you please review my resume on your channel? We normally get a couple hundred reviews, a couple hundred resumes every time we do this. And we pick 5 or 6 of them to review live on my channel. And I tell these job seekers like, hey, change this, do this, maybe switch this up. Well, here's what David said. He sent me an email. He's like, Heather, thank you so much. I was actually resume number 2 that you reviewed. And this, by the way, is our last resume review show that we did last month. He says, I've been searching for 13 months for a position since COVID took my last job. He says, I have to be honest with you. It hasn't been easy these last 13 months. I stopped counting how many times I've been ghosted and told, thank you for applying, but we have decided to go with another candidate. He goes on to say, well, I'm reaching out to let you know your advice, help, and wisdom have paid off. He said, this past week, I landed a wonderful new position. COVID may have taken my last job, but it also provided me a new one. I am now working for a biotech company that is fighting to end the COVID pandemic. And here's the cool thing that he says. He says, I now make more than I thought was possible, all while doing something that helps others. He says, which is something I'm told I excel at. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. I wouldn't be here where I am now without your assistance. So just so you guys know, this is possible. It's possible to land jobs. And like David, he was ghosted and he stopped counting. And I know a lot of you mentioned that in the comments today. Oh, there's my alarm. I know a lot of you mentioned that in the comments today, that's one of your biggest frustrations. So let's talk a little bit about that. Now, if you can relate to David's story, give me a yes in the comments. So if you can relate to his story, give me a yes. I'm seeing a lot of yeses from my previous question. Also, awesome. Steven says, I also struggle sometimes because I'm transitioning from a different industry. Yes, music, audio, from media. We're going to address a lot of this stuff today here today, guys. And I know we don't have a ton of time. So I'm a teacher and I like to teach. So I'm going to get you as much information as possible before we have to finish here today. So type yes into the comments if you can relate to David's story. Now, while you guys are typing that in, let's talk about the steps that I'm going to share with you today. Basically, where do we start? So the first thing I want you to think about is eliminate distractions. So today, you are going to be presented with a full day of presenters and online content and recruiters and info sessions and opportunities to network. I want you to be present. Make today the time for yourself. Now, remember, I mentioned earlier, today is not just about today. What I'm sharing with you, this is as a job seeker. So if after you leave here today and you're job seeking, eliminate all those distractions that come up when you're searching for your job, okay? We want to make sure you're present and that you get the most out of what we have to offer today at this fantastic summit. Now, the second thing I want you to think about is be prepared to ask great questions, okay? So when you come to an event like this, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions either right now with me, with recruiters during the online networking sessions and the info sessions. You'll have questions to ask other presenters and speakers. Some really good questions. You'll have an opportunity to do that. So make sure you prepare for some of those questions. Now, I want to give you some ideas to think about when it comes to questions. Okay. So there's 3 types of questions that are fantastic to bring to the table when you're thinking about the people that you're going to be interacting with here today, but also when you go into interview. Okay. I want you guys to think about this when you go into interview. So I want you to think about questions that you can ask about the company, questions you can ask about the position, and questions you can ask about the team. So there's 3 main categories that I want you to focus on. And I'm going to really quickly give you some ideas of what those questions look like. So here's a question about the company. Okay. You could say, I understand your company values are XYZ. And that's you knowing what the company values are. Okay. So again, take some time to do a little bit of research on the companies that are here today, the companies that you interview with. Make sure you do understand their values and their mission. What characteristics do you look for in employees in order to represent those values? Okay. That's just a quick question, a sample question that you could ask. Here's a sample question you can ask about the position. Can you offer specific details about the position's day-to-day responsibilities? Okay. So now you're just kind of saying, what does the day-to-day look like? And that's okay if you ask this question, just so you know, this is a totally legit question to ask. And then a question about the team. What are the current goals the company is focused on, and how does the team work to support hitting those goals? Okay. So now you're talking more about how can the thing I love about this question is it focuses on the company, but it also focuses on the team. And now it helps you to see, how do you fit within that team? So think about those questions that you could ask while you are going through this this presentation and this summit today, but also when you're moving into your job search and the interview. Now, tell me in the chat, what one question would you like to ask today? So if you were being presented in front of a recruiter or a hiring official or someone that is hiring for a company, what question would you like to ask them? I want you to practice with me in the chat. So type that in and we'll see what kind of good questions come in. Now, while you guys are typing that in, step number 3 is be ready to put yourself out there, okay? As a job seeker, it is your most vulnerable stage of life. Like, I've had people tell me this is the most vulnerable I've ever felt in my entire life, because there's so many things coming at you. There's so many pressures. Be ready to put yourself out there today. Be ready to make new connections with people. Be ready to introduce yourself. Once an employer engages you in the chat, be ready to ask them questions. The ball is in your court now, and you can now start engaging them in conversation. Okay. Step number 4 is make a good first impression with this solid introduction. So I'm going to share a template with you guys here in just a second. And this template is to allow you to create what I call the perfect pitch. Okay. So you guys have probably all heard about elevator statements, 30-second pitches, all that good stuff. I'm going to give you a quick formula that you can use. And by the way, jot this down right now. If you're in a place where you can take notes and jot this down, do it right now, because you're going to be introducing yourself before you know it to a new employer. So I want you guys to kind of think about these things. So the first part of this is who you are and who you help. So if I look at my example, I say I'm a career strategy expert helping professionals find their dream job so they can grow in a field they love. Okay. So I want to know who you are and who you help. I am an X helping Y. Okay. The next part of this is, why are you passionate about what you do? As an employer, the thing we want to know most is, why are you even doing what you're doing? It can't be just to get a paycheck, okay? It's got to be deeper than that. So this is where you're going to talk about your passion, okay? Part number, and you'll notice my examples on there. I'm not going to read through the entire example, just because I want to spend some time on questions when we finish here today. Part 3, what makes you so unique? Okay, so out of all the other candidates that we might be meeting with today, or if you're again on an interview in a week from now, out of all those candidates, why are you so special? What's so unique about what you do? So in my case, I say what's unique about what I do is the process I use to help my clients build confidence to achieve their career goals. Okay, simple as that. So I'm just saying what's unique about me is X, Y, and Z. Now, the fourth part to this is, how does the current opportunity relate to your career goals and aspirations? So here's what I would have said with Luke when Luke approached me to, hey, Heather, do you want to come and present at this summit? So I'm thrilled to learn that your company's vision of providing award-winning career guidance aligns perfectly with my goals and aspirations as a business owner. So now I'm looking at, how does Luke's company, how does that align with what I want? Or how does that align if I'm a job seeker? How does the company, how does that align with where you're going in your career? Okay. So you got to think about those 4 parts. And then there's a bonus part to this, and that is, what's your call to action? What do you want to have happen? Like, for example, when Luke and I were meeting, he said, hey, would you mind if we connect over Zoom for a couple minutes? Okay. Here's an example. I would love to learn more about the problems you solve in the industry. Would you mind if we connect over coffee? Or would you mind if we connect over Zoom for a couple minutes? Okay. Something very simple. Don't overcomplicate this. Don't overthink that. But that's the four parts to the perfect pitch. Now, I want to share, this is probably going to be the best screen for you guys today. So take a screenshot. This is the template that I just shared with you. I'm putting it all together. Take a screenshot of this or start writing it down. I am a helping such and such. One of my greatest passions is, state your passion. So again, you're going to say, I am a, say who you are. Okay. Helping, and then say who you help. One of my greatest passions is, state your passion, whatever that might be. What's unique about what I do is, list some of the problems that you've solved, some of your greatest accomplishments. Okay. It's great to learn that. You're going to mention that opportunity. And then you're going to say, have you ever, and then finish with a question, or would you like to meet over Zoom or whatever that is. Take a screenshot of this, you guys, because this is like the number one slide for today that is really going to help you, not just in today's summit, but as you go out and as you job seek in the world. Now, the fifth and final step, and then we'll take some questions, is connect and network with others after this event. So today is not just today. Like today has other parts to it. Okay. So I want you to make sure you're connecting with people in the chat. Make sure that after this event, you reach out to the recruiters, the hiring officials, the presenters. I would love you to reach out to me on LinkedIn and be like, hey, Heather, I saw your presentation. Can we connect on LinkedIn? Okay. Just do that to anyone that you can think of that's here today, or any other candidates or other job seekers in the chat. Make sure you are doing that. And a bonus I'm going to say here is if an interview doesn't come out from this, make sure you're at least requesting an informational interview. Okay. Now, the next thing that I want to share with you guys, and then we're going to take questions really quick, is this bonus step, which is to dust off your resume. Now, I know that all the fantastic people at Fairstream who are hosting the Get Hired Summit, they mentioned this earlier. As you're going through these virtual events, get your resume ready. If you do not already have your resume ready today, I want to invite you to a special live resume writing masterclass that I'm holding next week. If you go to heatheraustin.online/resume-webinar, you'll be able to jump in and join me for this free event. We're going to talk about how to quickly customize your resume to fit almost any job. We're going to talk about how to write an attention grabbing summary that hits employer specific pain points. We're going to be talking about how to update your resume if you've been laid off from the pandemic. This event is totally free. It will last about 60 minutes, and I'm going to give you all the good stuff pertaining to getting your resume ready and all that good stuff. So make sure you join me. Even if I have a couple of seconds, I'll pop the link into the chat for you guys, and you can copy and paste it directly from there. And with that being said, let's jump into some questions. So Luke, I don't know if there's anything that you want to mention. I can even just scroll through the chat here and get into some really good juicy questions, because I know we've got some. There were already some that came in. But if there's anything that you want to bring up, Luke, feel free to chime in here. And I know we only have a couple minutes left.
No, this is great. If you take that Q&A and answer those questions, I think that would be perfect.
Awesome. Yep. Let's do that. Okay. I'm going to get my glasses on, you guys, because the Q&A is a little bit small. Okay. So let's see. Jennifer, I'm just going to kind of go up, and I'll have a couple minutes here, you guys. So I'm going to kind of pick out a few questions that I think will benefit the crowd, and I'll try and read through them as quickly as possible. So Patty, hello, Patty, way to go. Popped her LinkedIn profile already into the chat for us. Jennifer, I'm so happy you're here. I know you. So Jennifer says, what accommodations does the company provide for someone with, let's see, sorry, your thing just disappeared. For somebody with disabilities? I love that question. I think that's fantastic, Jennifer. Keep that in your back pocket. And when you are meeting with these recruiters today, definitely get those in there, get questions in there. Shira says, how are your employees being supported? Good. These are questions that when I asked you guys questions to ask us in the chat, these are some fantastic questions. Let's see. Okay, Michaela says, what can I do to stand out when I'm a recent college graduate? Okay, so Michaela, here's the fantastic thing about being a recent college graduate is that you've got energy, you've got passion, you've got drive, you're just getting started out. I would focus on all of those fantastic qualities that college graduates have. Your determination, your readiness to learn, your willingness to learn, your ability to work on teams. I would also look at, Michaela, if you're building a resume and looking at going into the job market, make sure, you're focusing on projects that you've accomplished, volunteer work you've done in the past. And then of course, your network, reach out to classmates you've had that might be working in companies that you want to work in, reach out to your professors, ask them if they have any connections. And then also, use your college, your career center or career resources on campus if you can. Such a good question. Okay, let me see really quickly. Beth says, I received a job offer for 2 positions at one company. I was to call back after the weekend to let them know which one I wanted. He never answered or returned my call. And she says that's very strange. So, Beth, I encourage anyone in this situation, make sure you're following up and doing all that good follow-up strategy after interviews, and even 1 week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks out. A lot of times recruiters and hiring officials, they're bombarded with applications and they're trying to sort through things. It takes them some time. Don't take it personal. Keep reaching out. If you're not hearing back after 3 or 4 weeks, I would say move on. But awesome. Yes. Okay. I'm just trying to see if there's any other quick questions, Luke. How many more minutes do we have? Are we close to being done here? Or do I have a few more minutes to ask?
Yeah, we've definitely got a few more minutes. We got 5 more minutes.
Oh, good. Okay. Good.
I'm seeing a question from Luke over here. Actually, if you wanted to take this one, how do I tell a compelling story about pivoting to a completely different role that I've done previously?
Oh, I love this. Okay. So this is a good question. I actually get this question almost on a weekly basis from people, especially in the current economic situation. So we've noticed a lot of industries and sectors are kind of closing down a little bit. And then there are some that are opening up. There's more that are opening up, and a lot of people are trying to make a pivot. Let me tell you, I get a message at least once a day from someone that has successfully made a pivot. So just know, number one, that it's totally possible. Number two, what I would focus on with Luke that asked this question is I would focus on what are some of your transferable skills. So how are you taking what you've done in the past and how are you going to relate it to this new position? And kind of try and connect the dots there. And then number three, which is super, super important, is show your passion. So if you come in to an interview or you come in and you're networking with a recruiter or a hiring official and they see that you're like super into this, a lot of times companies are like, you know what, like this guy or this gal, they have this passion for this industry. I could just train them on all these other random things that I need to train them on because they're so into it. So when you're telling your career story about that, I would talk about your why and your passion in there and talk about, hey, I'm super pumped. I'm super excited about this new industry. And I can now take my skills of XYZ and I can apply it to this new industry. I'm super teachable. I love working with teams. I can even lead teams if I need to, whatever that is. Focus on the passion and the why. And then, of course, networking. It all comes down to networking and getting in front of the right people, the right decision makers. And that's a whole nother live stream topic. But that's what I would say in a quick nutshell there. That's a really good question.
This is great.
Yeah.
Lizette also had a really good question earlier on. And she said, I'm changing careers. I was in the film and video production industry for 14 years. Now I'm trying to break into web development. For someone that's career switching, I guess, what are your, what are your tips and tricks for someone to kind of break into a new industry this way? I guess, have you had any experience helping people transition slowly into that new industry?
Yes, totally. And like I mentioned before on with Luke's question earlier, it's all kind of the same principles, but here's the great thing about was it Lizette? Did you say?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
About her industry is that she like a lot, both of those industries require some sort of like artistic and creative ability. So the nice thing about where she's coming from is she's going to be able to easily transition into that. Where if it's like an accountant trying to go into web design, that's a lot harder. So what I would say to her that I didn't mention with Luke is the networking component to this, and just making sure that she's networking with as many people as she can in the web design industry. Sometimes it even starts with people you already know, but again, you could go on to LinkedIn and you can search web designers in a specific industry or companies that you might want to work for to see if they have those web design positions, and you really dig deep into those transferable skills, so skills that you have that you can bring into that industry that someone else might not have. Like not everyone's coming from the film and media industry. So you have a whole new perspective that you can bring that most people can't bring. So I would totally weigh heavily on that.
That's amazing. There is, Michaela asks, I feel like recruiters don't even see my resume because the resume filtering software, and this can be super discouraging. Oftentimes we don't know what's happening on the back end there. Any tips to get past that, or any other advice that you would offer for someone experiencing this challenge?
Yes. Okay. So I got to plug my resume workshop next week because we're totally talking about that. So we have a whole section dedicated to applicant tracking systems and how to overcome those. I actually just popped the link into the chat for anyone that wants to grab that. You'll enter your name and your email address, and we'll send you all the good details for it. But in short, when it comes to the applicant tracking system, they're just trying to send it through really quick. So this again saves recruiters and hiring managers time. They are going to definitely be looking for really important keywords in your resume. If your resume doesn't have those keywords, you've got to get them in there. And I teach strategies on how to do this. But looking at the job posting and saying, hey, are they using the word customer service or like customer management or client service or whatever? You have to make sure your resume matches their tone. And by doing a few little things, you could almost always get it past the applicant tracking systems. It's a good question.
This is awesome. Yeah. So Heather, I know we're coming up on time here, but I'll leave you to say some final words to the group. For the group, I just want to make one quick announcement for the next two sessions. You'll see on the schedule that the sessions are stacked on top of each other. The next two sessions are at the same time, so you'll have to pick. You can always go back and watch the replays in your home tab here on Fairstream after this. But the two companies that are coming up are MarketStar and Traeger Grills, two amazing companies that are hiring across the board, some awesome opportunities for you to partake in. So Heather, I'll give you a minute to kind of wrap things up, and then we'll see you all in the next session here in 8 minutes.
Awesome. Thanks, Luke. So some last minute tips that I would just share with you guys today. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to reach out after this to recruiters and hiring officials. They're looking for you. Like you got to look at it as this person needs me. Like they are looking for you as much as you're looking for them. So turn it into a win-win opportunity. Don't be afraid to network with them, ask them questions, because they essentially need you on their team. And I just have that confidence to do it because I meet with a lot of them and I know how much they're hiring and I know how much they're struggling to find really good candidates. Be that good candidate for them and make a perfect match. And of course, any questions that you guys have after this, you can reach me on LinkedIn. Just type Heather Austin. I'll be on LinkedIn. And this was such a fun event, Luke. And I'm so excited to see how the rest of the day plays out and all the other speakers and presenters and info sessions that you have planned. So I'm just super excited for everyone that's here because I know they will be finding jobs. So exciting.
Thank you so much, Heather, and have a great day, everyone. We'll see you in the next session.
Thank you.